Hello students, welcome to Discover English. In today's lesson, we are going to learn the correct usage of must and should. Have you faced any situation where you got confused between where to use must and where to use should? Don't worry. In today's lesson, I'll clear all your confusion. Both must and should are used to give advice. But what is the difference? How do I get to know where to use must and where to use should? We use must to give advice when I want to express a stronger point of view. That means when I want to put more emphasis on my statement. Whereas should can be used just for suggestion. It is used just for suggestion or advice, but I am not emphasizing my point of view. I am not putting any stronger emphasis on my point. When I use must, I put more emphasis on my statement. For example, I say, you should attend some good spoken English program. Or I say, you must attend some good spoken English program. What is the difference between the two sentences? If I say, you should attend some good spoken English program, that means I'm just giving you a piece of advice. I'm just giving you a suggestion. It is up to you to follow that or not to follow that. Whereas when I say you must attend some good spoken English program, that means I am expressing a stronger point of view. I am emphasizing on my statement that something negative might happen if you don't do that. Like I want to say that it is very, very important for you to do this, right? But let me tell you, neither must nor should indicate any kind of compulsion. Many students, they feel that when we use must, it means it is mandatory. It means it is a compulsion, which is not at all the case. Both must and should are used to give advice. The only difference here is that I use must when I want to put more emphasis on my statement, when I want to express a stronger point of view. That is the first difference between must and should. However, must becomes a compulsion when I want to deny something. That is, it acts as a prohibition. It acts as a prohibition, or I can say command. That means only in negative sentences, when I want to deny something, when I want to refuse something. In that case, I use must, and here in this case it becomes mandatory to follow that. For example, we say you must not take mobile phones in the classroom. Must not take mobile phones in the classroom. That means this is something which you are not supposed to do. Or I say, you must not get into somebody else's affair. That means it is something which is not permitted, which is not allowed. So in this case, you have to follow this. So in case of prohibition or command, must acts like a compulsion, but not otherwise. Otherwise, it is just an advice or a suggestion, but I am putting more emphasis on my statement. Next point is, must is also used in case of inevitability. It is also used in case of inevitability. Now, what do I mean by inevitability? Inevitability is something which cannot be avoided, something which is bound to happen. For example, one day we must all die. Or I can say one day we must all grow old. So in this case, I use must. That means it is something which is bound to happen. Next use of must is in case of fixed determination. Now, what do I mean by this? Fixed determination. For example, I say, I must support my family. Or I say, I must crack my exam. I am expressing my determination. I am showing that I have decided that this is something I want to do no matter what. That is why I use must to express my determination about something. Next use of must is in case of expectation or conclusion. In case of expectation or conclusion. Now, what do I mean by this? I say she must have recovered by now, or I say my daughter must be feeling hungry by now, or I can also say she must have reached home. What am I trying to express here? I am trying to show that it is something which must have happened. For example, a doctor says he must have recovered by now. Based on the dosage that the doctor has given to his patient, he concludes that he must have recovered by now. I can say my daughter must be feeling hungry. I am concluding that this is the time she must be hungry. So in this case, I use must. So students, these are the uses of must. Now let us move on to should. As we discussed, should is used for giving advice or suggestion. But the only difference is that when I am using must for advice, I am putting more emphasis on my statement. I am expressing a stronger point of view. But in case of should, I am just giving a suggestion, a piece of advice. You may follow it, you may not follow it, it's up to you. Next point is, as we all know, should is a past of shall. It is a past of shall. For example, the teacher said that all the students should submit their assignments by next week. So I am using should as a past of shall here. Next use of should is we use it after lest. This is a very important point. We use it after lest. Now, what do we mean by the word lest? It means for the fear that. For the fear that. For example, I want to say, walk slowly lest you should slip. Walk slowly lest you should slip. So I am using should after lest, or I can say do exercise regularly lest you should fall ill. Again I am using should after lest. Next use of should is it is also used to talk about your purpose. For example, I say I spoke softly so that no one should overhear me. The purpose of me speaking softly was that nobody should overhear me. So I use should here. I can also say purpose or result. For example, I say the father advised his sons in order that they should work hard. So, to express purpose or result, I use should. So, students, I hope the use of must and should is very clear to you. I'll give you a quick recap. Both must and should are used to give advice. However, we use must when we want to put more emphasis on our statement. That is, when I want to express a stronger point of view. But neither in case of must nor in case of should, it is mandatory to follow the advice. It is mandatory, it is a compulsion only when I am prohibiting something in case of must. Only when I am denying something in case of must. For example, we say, you must not take your mobile phones in the classroom. Or we say, you must not get into somebody else's affair. So in this case, we use must. Next is we use must in case of inevitability, to talk about something which is bound to happen. For example, we say one day we must all die, or one day we must all grow old. So in this case we use must, and it is also used to express my determination about something. For example, I must show him that I can speak in English. Right? So in this case, I use must to express my determination to do something. Next is expectation or conclusion. For example, a doctor says my patient must have recovered by now. Based on the dosage of medicine that he has been given, based on the treatment that he has been given, the doctor concludes that his patient must have recovered. A mother says my daughter must be feeling hungry by now. She knows when she had food last. So she says, my daughter must be feeling hungry now. And should is used just for normal advice and suggestion. It is also a past of shall. One very important point of should is it is used after lest. We normally do not use it in speaking much, but we use it a lot in writing. For example, I say, walk slowly lest you should slip. Do exercise regularly lest you should fall ill. Next use of should is purpose or result. You talk about your purpose of doing something. For example, you say, I spoke softly so that no one should overhear me. The father advised his sons in order that they should work hard, so on and so on. So students, I hope now you would not get confused where to use must and where to use should. I would be back very soon with many more interesting and useful concepts. Stay tuned, do post in your comments and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon. Bye bye.